Having the opportunity to travel in life is a luxury for many. I believe that if we have that opportunity, if we're given the circumstance, that we should take it. Because that change in scenery, that change in environment can fundamentally impact how we look at the world. My name's Tarab. I make videos about emotional intelligence every day. My mission today is to explain what I've been going through when it comes to the different changes that have occurred in my life. When I was young, I moved from Pakistan to Canada at the age of 4 years old. And I spent a lot of time exploring, genuinely having fun, but also being very acutely aware of the world around me. I know many of you watching this channel are probably those people too. People that are emotionally sound and are looking around all the time for the beautiful things in the world. Perhaps the over-attention to detail is overwhelming at times, but you and I both know that it is the better way to live. After that, we moved quite a bit around in Canada, me figuring out what it means to have friends and what it means to have a personality and what it means to be humble and humble roots. I remember living next to an old lady that had a massive collection of cassette tapes and a massive collection of VCR cassettes that had all these different movies and stuff. And we used to go over, her name was Mama Lucy, and we used to go over to the basement and watch all these movies. Across the street there was a YMCA, fairly shabby neighborhood in Canada. And as we grew and as we understood more, my mother being a dentist from Pakistan, my father being a civil engineer that worked for the government, these intelligent people were able to create a life in which they had an abundance of friends, an abundance of resources, and an abundance of happy circumstances. And through that, me and my brother grew up in better and better neighborhoods. And we finally got to a point in life where we were satisfied. We could go out on the street and play some tennis. We were out of the hood. We were enjoying the luxuries of having a basement and playing video games on a Saturday morning. And all of a sudden, life changed. My father passed away in the middle of the night from a heart attack, a widowmaker heart attack from an injury incurred prior in his life. That triggered another series of moves, probably because of the fear that was surrounded by being in that same environment. Looking back, I think to myself, traveling at that point in life has drastically changed who I am as a person. Because had we stayed in Canada, had we stayed in that circumstance, I may perhaps not have ever developed into the person I am now, for better or worse. But I'd like to think for better. I'm trying to help the world now, so who knows. But we basically ended up moving to California. We moved to, I learned a lot over there in terms of weather, in terms of the tendencies of Canadians versus Americans. That was my introduction into the somewhat callous world of America at times. And I learned a lot about culture there. I learned a lot about what it means to be an individual. Growing up as a middle schooler, our personalities start to take shape. They start to manifest in the way that we have conversations and how we spend our time. And by virtue of being in a completely different location where winter really doesn't exist, I was able to see the ocean. I was able to see sand. I was able to see beautiful people. I was able to see strange trees that I'd never seen before. And I was able to experience that in a very novel way as a child. Really someone that's developing, maturing. Shortly after, my mother decided to see if London would be an interesting place to develop and see our life. And there we went and we studied for many months. And it turns out that though our education was beyond perhaps what they were providing in school, that they were putting us with our grade level, they were putting us with our age. And she didn't like that, so we moved out of there. But London again showed me a drastic difference in how humans can live, how things were so small and succinct, and how proper people talked, and how much racism existed, despite it being, must have been 2010 at least at this point. and there was a lot of rain. The aesthetic altogether different. London made me understand why there was so much dreariness in the population there. You know, it was the weather, it was the way people were, it was the old world trying to adapt to changing circumstances. Very interesting time, strangely alien, and strangely like a dream. Shortly after, I moved to the United States again, and we set on our journey to my mother getting her dental license. We moved from Louisiana to Connecticut to Massachusetts to Ohio, and traveled a lot of places in between, a lot of road trips. And all of that moving taught me that weather is completely different where you go. The very air smells different based on whether or not obviously you're in a city or in a suburb. The people, the drastic change that you will experience going from the Northeast to the South, and how warm the interactions are in the South, and how honest oftentimes the interactions are in the South, to moving to Ohio, which tends to be basically a crossroads of those two mentalities, where the harshness of the Northeast is met with the softness in the vernacular. Now, all of this change obviously came with a drive forward, right? Trying to become greater, trying to make a life out of all of the misery, perhaps, that my mom had gone through. And despite all of that, she still gave us situations to travel. We still went to Spain, we still went to Italy, we still went to France and Iceland, and we went to Mexico on trips. We went to Pakistan, went to Turkey, you know, all of these amazing places. And honestly, I want to go to more. And I say all these things to you not as a way to say, look at all the crazy places that I've been, because frankly, it's nothing compared to where some people have been. But I say this to you to say that the way that I have become this way, the way that I've developed into the person that I am, is by virtue of experiencing new geographies, is by virtue of constantly having to rebuild who I am as a person. And I think it's an essential part of becoming more robust as we are. So if you have something in your heart that says you should leave, that you should get to a new place, try it out. You can always come back home. And that's a message that I give to myself as much as I do those of you that are watching this video, in that there are things in life that cannot be shown. They must be experienced. And that means that if you haven't been to the beach, you gotta go. That means that if you haven't been on a mountain, you have to go. That means that if you haven't been in the middle of a forest and heard absolutely no human beings or intervention, you should probably go check that out. Because you only do live once, my friend. And the experiences form our subconscious understanding. So, where am I to go from here? Right? I'm in Ohio. I'm making these videos in my house, and for the next foreseeable future, perhaps the next 5 years at least, I'll be concentrating pretty strictly on growing my business and hopefully empowering people like you on the other end of the screen. What I want to do is make sure that all of my eggs are in a row. It's said that you can only scale when you eliminate chaos. How do we do that in our lives? Well, I have a series of videos that will explain that if you're looking for the answer. How I'm going to try to do that is be very, very conscious about the little things that need to happen for me to have the freedom to go and travel more, to go and grow more as a human being. Without that appreciation of myself and appreciation for what I've been through, I don't know if I would set goals like this. And I believe that when we go through these changes in life and these drastic differences, in geography in particular, that we start thinking about the world as it really is. A very, very large place that can be made very small with human connection, with a real appreciation for the other person that we're talking to, the other person that we're interacting with. Our humanity remains the same regardless of where we go. So I encourage you, get out, travel, explore as much as you possibly can. New cultures, new geographies. You never know when you might fall in love or when that light switch just turns on. My name's Tarab. I make videos about emotional intelligence every day. Actualize your potential catalyst. This world needs you. Take care of yourself. I'll see you on the flip.